Guys, defense in here. Um, I don't know, is this a video for Jesus, which I am, or Philippine Bible Ministry, which I also am. But D.L. Moody seems to be the star of today's videos in a way. Um, I just love D.L. Moody. It's funny. It's just the simplicity of D.L. Moody. I'll just call it that. There's a guy. Actually, I'll link a thing on here if you want to watch a really cool video. There's an actor. I can't remember his name, and he acts out these different famous people, D.L. Moody and E.M. Bounds, and all these different famous. And his D.L. Moody one is amazing. It's so good. So D.L. Moody was a very simple but a very deep person. I love reading his. I love the way he writes because it's really down to earth and simple. It's not complex at all, and it's just but it's right up in your grill, you know. And so just a couple of ideas I had about this. Well, how does this work out? Well, as you may or may not have figured out by now if you watch my videos, I'm not a big fan of organized churchiosity. I call it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's what we have in this world for the most part, and so I do support it. But I'm more support disciples of Jesus, who anyway. I'm not going to get into that whole episode. With there, I have some other videos called Churchiosity if you want to watch them. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that people get lost up in their religion of their rights and their church and their banners that they carry around with them and they use them. They beat other people in the heads. You know, the Catholic versus the Protestant, the Reform versus the whatever else those free people are, and just thinking, oh, we're the ones. Look at this wretched over here. This guy over here, he's a heretic, you know. So D.L. Moody was able to walk that right down the middle of it, and he didn't really care. And so they asked him questions. They said, so I just give you two examples. I've used this before, but the simplicity of 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 a godly man. It's, maybe that's the title of this: the simplicity of a godly man. So they asked him one time. They said, "Well, are you a Calvinist?" Because yeah, I'm a Calvinist, I guess. I came up through the Baptist. I guess I'm a Calvinist. He goes, well, if you're a Calvinist, then why do you do altar calls? Well, you have all these meetings. There's thousands of people there, and you do an altar call. Why do you do an altar call? Don't you know that no one can come unless God calls them? And he said, yeah, I know that. But he says, this, but I don't know who God called, so I just ask them all to come. And if God calls them, they're going to come. Very simple. He doesn't really argue. He doesn't get into the depths of it. He just walks away and makes it a simple statement, and boom. He's like a drop the mic, what they say in today's culture. He just says, okay, boom. Now what? And really, there's nothing you can say to that. I mean, you can, because a lot of people, they want to take their Calvinism or they want to take their Pelagianism and they want to beat people over the head with it. And he just says, I'm not playing that game. I'm just gonna I'm gonna just do God's will, and millions will get saved. And I love God, and he gave up everything for these people. Here's another simple thing. When he first started, well, not long after became saved, he some simple things. So here's a simple thing. He used to, back in the old days, it's a terrible thing. If you look at it now, but in those days, it was what churches do. This is why I'm not a big church person. You used to have to buy a pew. So you want to go to church? Okay. Well, where are you going to sit? I'm going to sit here. Well, you're going to have to pay us $1,000, whatever it was. I don't know what it was. $500, whatever it is. You're gonna have to pay for that pew. Why? Because we got to support the church. We got to support the. Look at everything. Look at the building. We got to pay salaries. We got a huge organization. We got to support over here in New York. This is church. What are you talking about? You have to pay the pew. So he bought a pew. Yeah, and then when he first got saved, he didn't know any better. He didn't know the rules of the church. So he would go out in the streets and he would get all the down and outers, the people that were with dirty clothes, maybe they were coming out of prostitution, maybe they were coming out of drunkards, maybe they're the poor street urchins, the kids living in the streets, and he would bring them to church, take them, and they got mad at him. You can't bring these people to church. Why not? Well, don't we're respectable here. What are you talking about? You can't bring these people in here. This is respectable. They have to wear certain clothes. Only all the people that are Christians know what's going on, and God protects them. Don't you see that? And he says, no, I'm sorry, but I thought this is who Jesus came for. So you're simple. And so he left that church. And anyway, so he went on, he started doing Sunday schools, right? He's always doing these things. They call him the Sunday school man. So what did he do? So he went into Chicago in the worst places, the worst ghettos. By the word ghetto is not about black people, by the way. It's a really old word. It goes back a couple hundred years. But they went into the worst places and he would do Sunday school for kids. And I don't even know if it was always on Sundays. I don't really know all the details. But he would go out and he would like rent out maybe it was rent out a building or something. He would just grab all these kids and bring them in, just bring them in. And he said it was really hard to teach them because they're all running around and these are wild feral children, you know. And he would just he said you got maybe 5 minutes, so he would give them all candy. Say, okay, I'm gonna give you candy if you sit down for. And he would tell them the gospel, and then they gotta, and then he'd bring them back. And he said we had ponies, we had all this stuff. We just tried to grab the kids, and he would literally chase the kids down in the street. He was chasing a kid once. The kid ran away from him, ran into a bar. So he goes into the bar and he grabs the kid from out from under the table. The kid's father comes out, the guy who owns the bar. He already doesn't like Moody because when people get saved, they quit going to the bar, and this guy's losing his business, and he hates him. And so every time, so he takes his kid, and the guy's, I'm gonna kill you, deal, Moody. And every time this guy saw him, this guy would always grab a knife or a hatchet, I don't know, a hammer, whatever. He said, I'm going to kill you, Dale Moody. He goes, and somebody says, well, after a while, you get kind of nervous someone around. So he said, one day I was just said, you know what? Go ahead and kill me, but let me tell you about the man who died for your soul first. I think I got saved, wound up becoming a pastor and turned his church into a bar. I mean, his bar into a church. And there's one more about the Catholics. So I'm not a Catholic, and I also don't technically don't call myself a Protestant. And I guess I'm more along the lights of the Anabaptists, if you want to know the truth. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Um, but anyway, so I do love the Catholics though, because they love Jesus. A lot of them, a lot of Catholics are saved, and what's his name? Matt Maher, Mahar. He's one of the best worship guys, uh, Christian singers. He's got a song, "Your Grace Is Enough," which to me, I think that's not what Catholic doctrine is. I don't know about grace being enough. In other words, there's nothing else. I don't need to go do works and do all this stuff. So I don't care about all that. I just know that people that love Jesus are His, right? So they asked him once. They said, "Why are you so friendly with the Catholics? Don't you know the Catholics do all this stuff?" And I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to upset anybody on either side. But he said, don't you know they do all this stuff? And once again, the simplicity of Dale Moody, he just says, well, here's the deal. I'm just trying to find people that want to follow Jesus and love Jesus. And he goes, and by the way, most of them don't even know all the doctrines that their church teaches. They just do what their grandma did, you know. So he just basically he declawed them and defanged them. And when he died, the Catholic Church did a big thing about him. They loved him, and a lot of Catholics went to his funeral. Because why? Because he was all about Jesus, guys, and very simple. So keep it simple, stupid. They used to say. God bless you guys. Ta ta for now.